Right, let's jump straight into this explainer and completely reframe how you look at the cash in your wallet or, the numbers in your bank account. We interact with money literally every single day. We earn it, we spend it, we definitely stress over it. But how often do we actually stop to define what it is? So, what exactly makes something money? It's a question we almost never ask, right? But the answer literally determines how societies survive, how they trade, and how they build wealth. Money mediates almost every economic interaction we have. It actually shapes our social organization way more deeply than most political institutions do. But money itself, it's not a natural object. It's totally a human construct, one that emerged from our repeated, messy attempts to solve some very specific coordination problems. To really wrap our heads around this, let's look at one of the wildest monetary experiments in history. Over in the tiny Pacific island of Yap, they used these massive 12-foot limestone discs called rye stones as money. Now, these stones were so unbelievably heavy, they basically never moved. The community just collectively agreed on who owned which stone. And here's the crazy part. Once, when a crew was ferrying a brand new stone back to the island, a massive storm hit and sank it right to the bottom of the sea. The crew survived, made it back, and told the tale. So, what did the islanders do? They reached a stunning verdict. The unseen stone still totally counted. Its owner remained wealthy. And for generations, families actually traded the title to a rock sitting at the bottom of the ocean that no living person had ever laid eyes on. It sounds crazy, but this brilliantly illustrates a reality we completely take for granted today. Before you dismiss the Yap Islanders as primitive, just think about the invisible digital balance sitting in your banking app right this second. That is money for the exact same reason. Everyone simply agrees it is. You've never seen those digital dollars, right? They exist entirely as ledger entries on a server somewhere. So, the crucial takeaway here is that money is an agreement built purely on systemic trust. In this explainer covering Chapter 1 of our source material, we're going to break down how that trust actually works. We'll look at the functions of money, the rules of money, why gold was chosen, the limits of fiat, and finally, monetary memory. Part 1. The functions of money and its 3 economic jobs. To maintain that massive web of systemic trust, economists tell us money has to successfully perform 3 interdependent roles. If a candidate for money fails at even one of these, the whole system just collapses. First up, it has to be a medium of exchange. This is just to avoid the absolute nightmare of barter. I mean, you don't want to spend all day trying to find someone who specifically wants your apples in exchange for their shoes, right? Second, it needs to be a unit of account to calculate prices and let us actually plan for the long term. And third, and this is absolutely crucial, it must be a store of value. It has to act like a battery, carrying your economic effort and hard work safely forward into the future without all that value just leaking away. Moving on to part 2, the rules of money and their strict requirements. You see, fulfilling those 3 functions we just talked about imposes incredibly strict physical requirements on whatever we try to use as money. Throughout history, countless items have auditioned for the role. We're talking cowrie shells, salt, tobacco, but almost all of them failed. Look at how ruthlessly the market eliminates bad money based on these 6 rules. If a monetary candidate like, say, grain or cattle fails on durability because, well, grain rots and cattle die, or if it fails on portability, the whole system deteriorates rapidly. Think about divisibility for a second. If you try to cut a cow in half to make change, you don't get 2 smaller units of money, you just have a dead cow. That brings us to part 3, why gold was chosen in the market experiment. Across wildly different civilizations, separated by massive oceans and thousands of years, one material repeatedly won out. And it wasn't chosen by some universal decree or because of pure superstition. Gold was selected because its physical and chemical properties perfectly aligned with the functional demands of money. Let's talk about scarcity, which is the absolute bedrock of monetary value. Abundance without discipline absolutely destroys trust. And this percentage brilliantly illustrates why gold works. The global stock of above-ground gold grows at an incredibly slow, remarkably stable rate of just 1 to 2% per year. It's geologically limited, it is incredibly costly to extract. No committee or central bank can just take a vote and double the supply of gold overnight. Then you have the brutal test of time. Money has to endure across generations. Unlike grain that spoils or iron that rusts away to nothing, gold is chemically inert. It literally doesn't corrode or degrade. A gold coin minted in ancient Rome 2,000 years ago retains its exact physical substance today. It allows value to be transmitted across centuries without needing any maintenance whatsoever. Furthermore, you can melt it, alloy it, and divide it without losing a single drop of value. It has perfect fungibility, meaning an ounce of pure gold is an ounce of pure gold, no matter where it came from. It's incredibly dense in value, which makes it highly portable for settling massive accounts. But honestly, perhaps its most vital property is that it exists entirely independent of any government's decree or political system. It doesn't carry a national signature. Which brings us right into part 4, the limits of fiat and state money weakness. Modern state money, or fiat currency, which is what we all use today, functions incredibly well for daily transactions. It allows governments to actively manage economies and respond to sudden crises. But it carries a massive structural vulnerability. Because fiat money can be created in absolutely unlimited quantities at a practically zero marginal cost, basically just changing some numbers on a spreadsheet, it introduces this persistent, unavoidable bias toward debasement and inflation over long horizons. Whenever a government's obligations exceed their resources, the incentive for the political system is almost always to just expand the money supply. Gold actually imposes discipline precisely because it simply cannot be created at will. Finally, Part 5, Monetary Memory and Gold's Modern Role. Today, gold has definitely been demoted from being our everyday circulating currency, but it has absolutely not been abolished. It just retreated. It moved into the deep vaults of central banks and the portfolios of cautious investors. Today, gold acts as our monetary memory. It essentially keeps score. It provides a hard benchmark against which our modern, highly elastic fiat currencies are continuously measured. And you'll notice it rises in demand precisely when trust in those modern fiat systems falters, when inflation bites hard, or when geopolitical risks suddenly spike. It doesn't actually need to be in your physical pocket to exert its massive gravitational pull on the entire global financial system. By the way, this explainer was inspired by Chapter 1 of the book Gold, a story about money, wealth, and the architecture of value. If you want to really dig into the deep mechanics of wealth preservation, you can find the link in the description below. I'm going to leave you with this really provocative thought from the source material. As long as modern money requires our blind trust to function, gold will always be there to remind us of the physical rules of wealth. It's not some outdated relic of the past. It's basically the ultimate insurance policy against the hubris of the present. So, what do you think? Does our current system demand too much blind trust? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what you think you know.